thing that I got from all this is basically that your business experience separates you from everybody else.
Right.
You're a Texas attorney. You've got history with.
But I've had real jobs all my life.
Right, USAA, Halliburton for 17 years.
Right. Which included Brown and Root.
Brown and Root.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to all that, but
Great.
before that, you grew up poor.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about who you were as a young Dave, and then
Okay.
and how that
Sure.
transformation happened.
Yeah. I told a group in Burleson a couple nights ago. I thought it was appropriate to go ahead and explain how that all came about. My father was a contractor, and he was an alcoholic. And so we had a small little family-type farm. And as a result of his drinking, there was not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up in this house that built in 1900, had a Ben Franklin stove, had no running water, had no toilets inside. And this is in northern Illinois, because we moved around quite a bit. And so we lived there for a while. And so at 11 years old, I'm chopping wood. And I mean, it's below zero in northern Illinois, you can imagine. So, frankly, I didn't realize how poor we were, all right? And I compared with some of the other kids in school a little bit, and I just didn't really realize that. So, my parents got a divorce when I was 5th grade, and we moved in with our grandparents, and so a lot of things changed there. She then married a man who was in the Army Medical Corps, so we moved to San Antonio. So I got to San Antonio sophomore year of high school, end of it. And, but from the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I earned all the money that I had, either through paper routes, working at a dairy, doing anything that I could to make a little money, because that's the only money we could have had. And between the time we lived in that little farm and when my mother remarried, we lived in an apartment that cost $26 a month, all right? It had a toilet and running water, and I thought we were downtown,
Yeah.
all right?
Yeah.
And so I took showers at the school, because I was junior high by that time, playing basketball, so I could go down and take showers, and they had a little community center. And I was fortunate enough to be a fairly good student when I wasn't a class clown, and I did that a lot. And I always tell the story that when we moved to Texas, we left the day or two after July 4th. I'm 15 years old. It was 56 degrees the high that day in Illinois. We got to San Antonio, and it was 102. I didn't know that any place in the world existed that hot, all right? And so we lived in that was the first time I'd actually lived in a house with any substantive utilities and things like that. So there was a girl that lived across the street, and I met her, and she's my wife, who's been my wife now will be 42 years next December.
Across the street.
Yeah, across the street, married my high school sweetheart. And I went to East Central High School in San Antonio. And in the little town I was in Illinois, I mean, everybody knew who my dad was, all right? And so there was kind of a stigma. But nevertheless, when I came to Texas, I was a fairly decent student. I received an appointment in the Naval Academy, but we were in love and got married. And from there, I started working right away in a small paper mill and roofing mill in San Antonio, far on the west side next to Kelly Air Force Base. And I think at that time there were about a little over 100 employees, and I was one of the only non-Hispanics in the company. So San Antonio was a great experience for me.